Since the U.S. ended a program that granted temporary humanitarian protection to Cubans, the U.S. government has been deporting many back to Cuba. But why do people leave Cuba in the first place, and what role has the U.S. played? Cuba fought for its independence against Spain in 1898, but this was intertwined with the Spanish-American War, resulting in Spain relinquishing control of Cuba to the U.S. Now, the U.S. military has been occupying southeastern Cuba for over a century. Guantanamo Bay was basically stolen at gunpoint. While we undermined any sense of democracy in Cuba after their independence, we did support Batista's military dictatorship, which was overthrown by Castro through the Cuban Revolution in 1959. But of course, we were already planning for regime change by arming guerrillas inside of Cuba, since we preferred our business puppet, Batista. Soon after Castro took over, the CIA oversaw bombing and incendiary raids piloted by exiled Cubans who were based in the U.S., causing many casualties. After Castro claimed victory following the failed U.S. Bay of Pigs invasion, President Kennedy went ahead with previous President Eisenhower's plans to overthrow Castro through Operation Mongoose, using paramilitary operations, economic warfare, and sabotage to kill thousands along with large-scale destruction. Terrorist operations continued through some of the tensest moments of the Cuban Missile Crisis, when it was discovered Cuba was allowing Russia to install nuclear missiles on the island, after Cuba had declared itself a communist state just 10 months prior. And after that, a U.S. dispatched Cuban covert action sabotage team blew up a Cuban industrial facility, killing 400 employees. After Kennedy's assassination, President Johnson scaled back the terrorism, but President Nixon intensified it with attacks on fishing boats, embassies, and the bombing of a Cubana airliner, killing all 73 passengers. The devastating embargo, originally implemented by President Kennedy, was made harsher by President Bush I and then Clinton, causing international outcry for banning food and medicine, even as sanctions were eased for other terrorist states in 1999. The embargo was internationally condemned and even declared illegal by the Judicial Commission of the Organization of American States. The primary concern of the U.S. is not about democracy or human rights, but the fear that Cuba might be a virus that would spread throughout Latin America. While there have been changes in travel restrictions from the U.S. as well as whether or not to designate Cuba as a terrorist state, they've been under a U.S. embargo for over 60 years. And despite this, they have still been able to achieve near universal literacy, and due to Cuba's innovations in healthcare delivery, they've been able to send healthcare workers to other countries, including during the pandemic. All this while being economically isolated by the world's largest economy. I want to clarify that Cuba has committed many human rights violations against its own people, so while that makes them also culpable in why people flee from there, I am trying to paint a picture of how when a country tries to implement a form of government that is counter to the U.S.'s profits, our brand of predatory capitalism, and any system of government that aims to take care of entire populations through social programs, we create hellish conditions in these countries, and it makes finger pointing very tricky. I'm trying to point out a pattern of U.S. destabilization here and our culpability. For anyone that's interested in this or other stories like it, I have a new Discord server up with a lot of resources there, and we can put our heads together and make a difference. Cheers.